Akira is a pro gamer in modern-day Japan who spends most of his time playing games, teabagging losers, and shouting racial slurs in Call of Duty. One day, however, while he was waiting at a red light, a big van stopped in front of him and a huge brute of a man emerged from it. Wrapped completely in bandages, this man tries to walk towards Akira, while a 5-second countdown starts for him. The brute is blocked by a truck, but he immediately punches it away before lunging towards Akira with a deadly punch. Thankfully, however, Akira is nimble and ducks below his punch before dodging his ground smash as well. He falls back and grabs a bike before furiously pedaling it through the sidewalk while the Sasquatch chases him with the intention of uniliving him forever. Akira immediately starts thinking about his options before he decides to run towards an old abandoned building and hides on top of it while setting up a trap. The gorilla enters the building and starts looking for Akira, but as per Akira's plan, Gorilla is too fat and is having trouble walking through the old building. He ends up jumping past the broken part, surprising Akira, as he didn't expect him to be so athletic. The fatty starts walking upstairs and breaks through the door before walking stupidly into the trap, which leads to a huge water tanker landing on top of his head. Akira thinks that he might have won this battle, but the brute emerges from the cloud of dust, bruised and battered, and as his head starts bleeding, he gets ready for one of his explosive jumps once again. But Akira predicts this move of his and grabs a metal pipe just as the brute jumps. He ends up getting impaled by the metal pipe as Akira ends up using his own weight against him, which leads to the fatty's death as he falls down to the ground. Remember, kids, always fat shame other people into following a good diet so they can lose weight and bang your mom. He rejoices for a moment, thinking that he has won, when suddenly a weird cat woman appears behind him, who starts talking to him. Suddenly, the 5-second timer appears again, and the furry shoots a massive hole through Akira, as he collapses to the ground, bleeding to death. The furry tells him that he was in her hood and leaves the area without saying a single word. Akira regains consciousness in an unknown auditorium, which seems to be filled with people who are just as confused as he is. He looks around and finds himself handcuffed, while the furry walks on stage and starts talking to everyone, claiming that they are all dead in the eyes of the society and have to take part in this game no matter what, as they don't really have another choice. So this is where Squid Games get its inspiration. Anyways, one of the fat pieces of shits walks up the stage and tells the furry lady to shove it, as he isn't going to take part in anything, as he is a gorilla-brained smart male, but the furry simply blasts him away by converting her hand into a cannon and blowing his stomach off, killing him immediately. This scares all of the other contestants, who start scrambling to find a way to escape when the furry tells them to settle down and claims that she is not the only one with powers like this, as according to her, all of them have been bestowed upon with similar powers by a very powerful group of people who want to test these abilities on human subjects before making it into weapons so they can sell it to the military. She tells them that the handcuffs that they are wearing will prevent them from using these abilities, but they will get a 5-second timer after which their handcuffs will become green, and during that time they will be free to use their abilities. She walks up to Akira and tells him that she knows everything about him, and in fact she knows everything about everyone, as she starts calling the players by their names, telling them how she has thoroughly researched them beforehand. One of the blonde girls named Yuri, who is totally going to be Akira's chick, asks the furry why they were chosen, and she replies that it was all random, and there is no pattern to it, shocking everyone around. Suddenly, a really pretty-looking girl named Yang emerges on the stage and tells the furry that it is time to lead the contestants into their rooms, as the first battle is going to be a one-on-one. The furry tells them that while in the room, they should practice their abilities so that they know what they are doing, and with that, she blows open a hole in the wall, escorting them away. Akira enters his room, where he finds everything he would need, and even his cuffs are unlocked so he can test his abilities out. He sits down on the table in front of him and finds a sheet of paper on which a bunch of instructions are given, such as the one-on-one battles will only end if one party gets unconscious, admits defeat, or gets killed in the process, and it also directs him towards a nearby envelope, inside of which their abilities are explained. Akira suddenly hears a loud bang from the side of the room and realizes that the other players have already started to try their abilities out, which scares him a little bit, but he opens up his card and is shocked to see the weird ability that he got. According to his envelope, his ability is whatever the hell the opponents think his abilities are. This means that he doesn't really have any inherent abilities, but if his opponent thinks that he has some kind of terrifying ability, an illusion will be created and he will get those abilities for real. The first battle starts, and he enters the classroom with his handcuffs still on. There he finds a delinquent sitting on the desk with a stick in his hands. The delinquent looks at Akira and tells him that he has no ill wishes towards him, so if he likes to live, then he should surrender as soon as the fight begins, as his abilities are very nasty. Akira, however, isn't scared and tells him to bring it on, when suddenly the 5-second timer appears, and as soon as the countdown ends, their handcuffs are removed and the battle starts. The delinquent immediately runs towards Akira, as his stick converts into a sword that he uses to attack Akira, who simply dodges out of the way. The delinquent keeps attacking Akira, destroying the desks and the entire classroom, while Akira dodges and rolls on the ground before throwing a desk at the enemy. The delinquent easily cuts through the desk before moving ahead and cutting the chair in his hand to pieces, but Akira is able to push him away before throwing a bunch of desks at him and running out of the room like a bitch. The delinquent follows him into a room where Snoop Dogg seems to be hotboxing. He enters the room, but Akira immediately throws a camel at him before using a deodorant alongside a burner to create a makeshift flamethrower, which he uses on the delinquent, making him fall back. The delinquent, however, throws a piece of metal at the burner, breaking it before he gets up, and tells Akira to give up as his bag of tricks is over as he slashes through the boxes, finally finding Akira standing behind him. He turns around and looks at Akira, who smiles and tells the delinquent that the only reason he isn't using his ability is because it is too dangerous. The delinquent gets taken aback for a moment, but then tells Akira that he knows he is bluffing and attacks him with his sword. While attacking, however, Akira tells him that he has already seen an ability like his before, which was used by the furry. The delinquent immediately starts thinking subconsciously that Akira might have the hand cannon, which ultimately results in Akira's abilities being activated, and he simply gets a hand cannon, which he uses to shoot the delinquent, blasting him on the wall. Akira walks up to him and aims his cannon at him, saying that he should surrender, and when the delinquent realizes that there is no getting out of this, he ends up admitting his loss, which results in the first victory that Akira gets. He walks out of the room as his handcuffs get locked again and starts walking through a corridor back towards his room, where he meets Yuri, being escorted by a bunch of guards. While inside of her cell, Yuri didn't even look at the envelope for a very long time, as she had no intention of taking a part in this game, but when it was announced that she will be fighting next, she ends up checking the envelope only to realize that her powers lets her multiply her physical abilities by quite a lot. She decides to check it on a wall, and to her surprise, the wall gets a huge crater, even shocking her. Immediately, she decides to try it on the thick metal gates that have been placed on her room, but no matter how much she punches, she isn't able to break it, so she lays down again, while thinking back over the miserable life that she has had up till now. Finally, her chance to shine comes as she is escorted inside of the battle arena, where she spots a fat, ugly bastard who looks like a Reddit mod standing opposite to her, wearing only his undergarments. Just the look on his face creeps her out as he tells her that his abilities are to understand a person's emotion just by smelling them, which again is insanely creepy. The 5-second timer starts and the fatty immediately starts running towards Yuri, who jumps up in the air and lands a quick kick to his face, stopping him in his tracks. This, however, isn't enough to dissuade the fat blob, as even through a bleeding mouth he starts telling her that he likes her smell and knows whatever she is thinking. He realizes that she is already creeped out by him, so he decides to turn it up to 11 and undresses right in front of her, forcing her to cover her face as he runs up to her trying to punch, but she ends up dodging his attack. This was all planned, however, as he quickly grapples her into a rear naked choke, telling her to admit defeat. I swear to God, his actual special ability must be his musty and disgusting body odor, which would have definitely killed me. Yuri, however, is very mentally strong and probably has a blocked nose, as she simply grabs his arm and breaks it in half, which shocks the fatty. She quickly punches the ground, creating a smokescreen, and uses it to appear behind him, and then delivers a massive 3-punch combo, defeating the fat idiot and winning the battle. After her battle is over, Akira is also called out, as the second round of battle is about to begin, and he is escorted to a room filled with a bunch of people, including the delinquent Yuri, a monkey-looking guy, and a blue-haired dude. The announcement is made that the next battle will be a 5-on-5, and they have 5 hours to prepare for it. Akira enters the room and sits down among his peers as the monkey man suddenly starts speaking and decides to act as the host of their team. He tells them that now they are on the same team, so they should tell their abilities to each other, as then they would be able to synergize better with each other in the upcoming team battles. Everyone still seems to be pretty tense, but the ape seems to be an extroverted idiot who thinks that everyone should talk to everyone as it is fun. For the record, it isn't. Anyhow, he starts telling them about his powers first and reveals that his actual ability is that he can turn any normal button into a rope. Wow, what an excellent ability. Maybe he can use it to end this joke by hanging. Hanging out with other people, I mean, because this is definitely not the group in which he can thrive. Anyways, this at least eases them out as they start introducing themselves and even their own abilities, which Akira finds to be a very interesting dynamic. The delinquent reveals that his ability is to convert a normal stick into a sword, which seems to be a very basic ability, but I am pretty sure that he is hiding something. Yuri tells them that her ability is to multiply her physical traits by several times, which makes Akira ask the question about whether this only applies to her strength, or can she multiply her physical traits as well. She honestly replies that she doesn't really have any idea, so Akira asks her to jump up in the air as high as she could. She gets up and jumps up in the air, and her jump is already so strong that she was about to hit the ceiling, but gracefully stopped herself and descended back down. The blue-haired guy reveals that his ability is that he can turn himself invincible for 2 seconds, and during that time nothing and no one can harm him. But he also claims that he is not going to use that ability because he is a man of virtues and believes that this ability is not something that he worked for. Instead, it was just handed over to him, meaning that it's not his ability to begin with. Finally, Akira's turn comes and he realizes that everyone has revealed their abilities, so he needs to tell them his ability. The problem is that his ability is useless if other people know that he will only get the secret ability when they think that he already has it. This could be a problem later on in the game, as when they already know that he doesn't have any special abilities unless they think about it, they can easily defeat him without a fight. He thinks for a long time and ends up replying that his secret ability is to convert his hand into a cannon, similar to the furry woman. They all seem to be awed by his amazing power, as soon they are escorted to the ring for their 5-on-5 round. They all reach a giant ring and eye down their opponents. They were about to decide their strategy when suddenly the furry speaks over the microphone, claiming that the teams will fight one player against one, and whoever secures the first 3 wins the round. This completely shits over the plans that either of the teams might have made, as they thought it was going to be all of them against all of the enemies at once and not one by one. This means that they didn't have to reveal their abilities to anyone, and only Akira is the one who has benefited from this, as he smiles to himself because he knows everyone's abilities, but no one knows what he can do. The first match is against a girl who is wrapped around the inside of a blanket because she is feeling very cold, but in today's world, clickbait is everything, so even if she gets hypothermia, she isn't going to wear many clothes. Anyhow, Apeman goes from the side of Akira, and at first the woman tries to use her womanly charms on the ape, hoping that he has a monkey brain, and that she will be able to convince him to leave the ring for her, but the ape is one crafty son of a bitch, as he starts bluffing about his own abilities, before telling her that he doesn't want to use it to destroy such a pretty young woman, so he decides to play his hands wisely and proposes a gamble in the form of a coin toss. This is an excellent choice because his ability is basically useless, and he can never win against her in a fair fight, so he tells her that if it's heads, he leaves the ring, making her the winner, otherwise she leaves the ring, making him the winner. This is an insanely clever tactic, as from having 0 chances to win, now it is 50-50. His teammates cheer as he tosses the coin up in the air, but before it could land in his hand, he is stabbed by a bunch of double-sided daggers that the thought pulled out of her ass apparently. She apologizes for not waiting for the coin toss and tells him that she wasn't very keen on losing, and that's why I did this. The ape immediately falls on the ground and takes his last breath, dying on the spot. Yuri can't believe her eyes, while Akira and the delinquent are puzzled at the point that the thought barely moved her hands and suddenly a bunch of daggers appear from thin air, making it insanely confusing for them to figure out what her actual abilities are. The medics arrive in the ring and check up on the monkey man, but declare that he is dead and dispose of his body as the next round starts. The next match is going to be between Hulk and Nerd. The delinquent brings it to the notice that this little nerd doesn't seem to be fazed by the fact that she's going to fight a fat behemoth in a couple of seconds, and tells the Hulk to be careful. Hulk enters the ring ready to smash, but the girl still remains very calm. The 5-second countdown appears, and as soon as the counter runs out, Hulk rushes towards the girl at full speed, banking on the hope that he can catch her when she isn't ready with her abilities. But the nerd simply raises her hand as if she is in a class, which scares the Hulk, who immediately goes on the defensive, thinking that she is going to attack, but she simply admits her defeat, claiming that she can't win, and hops of the ring as if she was a cute little bunny. Everyone on Akira's team rejoices at the free win, while at the other side, the psycho thought grabs her throat and starts squeezing it as if she was trying to make some lemonade out of lemons. Thankfully for the nerd, however, one of the beanie girls stopped the thought from going absolutely haywire and promises that she will win her match and enters the ring. The delinquent enters the ring from Akira's side as Akira tells him to be careful at all times. They both enter the ring and a 5-second counter begins, and as soon as it is over, both of them take their position as the delinquent takes out his stick, while the beanie-wearing girl takes out a slingshot. She immediately shoots a shot at the delinquent, who has amazing reflexes, and uses his stick to deflect the small ball to the side, which shocks the beaner. Surprisingly for everyone, the ball immediately turns into a giant sphere, which falls on the ground, creating a small crater. The delinquent realizes that her plan is to use her marbles and create a big wrecking ball at the end that can crush him, but he tells her that he is not going to let that happen. He immediately converts his stick into a sword, surprising the girl as he starts running at her full force. She immediately shoots another marble at him, but he is able to deflect that as well, which makes her panic as she simply throws 3 marbles at once at him. The delinquent, however, dodges all of the marbles just like how I dodge my responsibilities. Before he can regain his balance though, the girl shoots another marble straight at him this time, but to everyone's surprise, he is able to cut through the entire giant sphere. This makes Akira realize that the delinquent's actual ability isn't converting a stick to a sword, but is the ability to cut through any and everything that comes at him. This is a big shock to the beaner, who basically is outmatched skill-wise against this guy as he tells her to forfeit, as she cannot win against him. She, however, thinks about facing the psycho thought after her loss and decides to fight back and take out a bunch of marbles from her pockets and throws all of them at once towards him. He is able to dodge every one of them pretty easily, but then realizes that all of the giant balls have not surrounded him, while the only chance he has is to run towards the girl herself and remove this problem from the root. Now that he is trapped, she tells him that this is her last marble and throws it at him, while he is still able to cut the giant ball into 2 pieces. But turns out that the beaner is more smart than we gave her credit for, as she lied to him about the last one being her only ball, and in reality, she had another one, which she tries to shoot at the delinquent. Everyone thought that the battle was over, but suddenly, her strap of the slingshot broke, and the marble flew over in another direction. She realizes that while the giant ball was in front of him, he quickly broke his stick into 2 and used one of the broken pieces as a throwing knife, which cut her slingshot. The delinquent simply moves towards her and tells her to surrender, but she simply smiles and tells him that he should have paid attention, and suddenly, a marble rolls towards him and converts into a giant ball, crushing his not-so-giant balls into small pieces. He falls off from them totally unconscious, while the beaner is declared as the winner. Akira watches over him as he regains consciousness and tells him that he lost the match because he was too cocky and because he has the brain power of a crayon-eating raccoon. After this, the announcement is made for the next fight to begin as Akira walks over to the stage, and on the other side, a lanky NPC walks over as well, looking hella frightened. Akira's teammates tell him that they have to win this match, otherwise they will lose this round and might get killed, but Akira knows that the organization who is making them fight each other isn't going to kill them on their own, and if they are hurt, they will even try their hardest to save their lives so that they can keep playing. He decides that the main objective for him today is going to try and figure out the conditions that apply with his abilities. He steps onto the ring and remembers the note that was in the envelope stating that his abilities are whatever the other person thinks it is. The problem with that statement is that he doesn't know who is considered as the other person. He first looks at all of his teammates as he knows they think his abilities are a cannon hand, but nothing changes, making him realize that they are not the other person. He looks at the NPC, who looks lost and scared, so Akira decides to experiment some more, and immediately turns around towards the delinquent, telling him that because of his cockiness, they might lose the battle, and claims that he thinks of him as an enemy. The delinquent gets scared, and immediately his hand transforms into a cannon, as he shoots just beside him, scaring the living crap out of him, before claiming that it was just a joke. He then turns around towards the NPC, knowing that now he and his entire team thinks Akira has the cannon ability. He looks at each member outside the ring first, but nothing changes, and then at last he looks towards the NPC, and immediately his hand changes into a cannon. He immediately shoots at the NPC to finish the battle, but the NPC crouches down in fear and touches the ground, which completely nullifies his attack, and the cannon in his hand disappears as well. He looks at the NPC again and shoots his cannon, but once again, it is blocked and his cannon disappears. After shooting multiple times, Akira realizes that this is not the way he can win, so he throws his shoe at him before appearing behind him and tells him to freeze and put his hands up. The NPC does as he is told, as Akira realizes that his ability is to nullify the oncoming magic attacks by touching the ground while he is crouching. The NPC immediately yields as Akira is crowned the winner. He walks down from the ring, while the Hulk claims that the NPC seemed to have a very useless skill. Akira, however, tells him that the skill was pretty nice, and if a man like Hulk had that ability, he could have easily defeated Akira within seconds. This was a very nice exchange, as now Akira realizes that for his ability to work, the other person has to know that they are his direct enemy and are engaged in a fight with him. Anyways, Yuri is called on the stage as the tiebreaker match, and her opponent walks in slowly towards the ring. The opponent turns out to be a young man with green hair and very feminine features who seems to know Yuri. Just after having a glance at her opponent, Yuri starts fuming like crazy, yelling that she will kill that man as he is a stalker that used to stalk her like crazy. And when he was threatening to off himself, Yuri tried to help and she grabbed her and jumped off the building. Her teammates sit her holding her back as she furiously tries to get past them towards the stalker, telling them all to back off as this guy is the only reason she is stuck in this place. Watching her anger, they all end up backing off as she marches off to the ring and stands there with her head held high, while the stalker tells her that he has already planned their marriage. What an insult. Yuri, however, is not playing around as she tells the stalker that she will beat the crap out of him. The 5-second countdown begins, and as soon as the timer is over, Yuri rushes towards the stalker and delivers a gut-wrenching punch to his solar plexus, blasting him out of the ring and into the wall, knocking him out immediately as she's crowned as the winner, bringing home the victory for her team. The furry appears in the middle of the ring again and tells them that they will be proceeding on to the next round now, and they tie blindfolds on their eyes before taking each team through a different gate. Their blindfolds are removed as the furry tells them that each of them has to choose a way to go further, as they will be dividing into solo players once again. They all bid goodbye to one another and begin their journey once again. Akira goes in his own room and finds a smartphone laying on the shelf. He immediately picks it up and starts looking through TikToks like a total buffoon, when the voice announces that he needs to move his ass to the next round ground and tells him that he has 30 minutes to eliminate as many people as possible in the Block A, which will give him a bunch of points. He comes out of the gate into a completely forest-like area, with cameras installed everywhere, and is signed denoting that this is the Block A. He immediately starts running inside of the forest to try and eliminate as many people as possible, but suddenly, a blondie jumps out of the tree and stands in front of him, telling him that he was waiting for the new players. Akira gets immediately alert and was about to start fighting when the blondie tells him that he doesn't want to fight him, and tells him that he is only here to recruit him. A confused Akira waits for what he was trying to say when suddenly from the forest, Yuri comes out running, being chased by 4 guys wearing a weird red tracksuit. She spots Akira and immediately stands behind him, claiming that these idiots were chasing her for no reason. Blondie seems to know the people in the red tracksuit, who seems to be of a certain gang, and tells them that you will not let them take these new players away. The red tracksuit weirdos do some horse crap before Blondie has had enough, and he takes out his stick, which immediately becomes a bow which can shoot infinite arrows. One of the members, who wears geek glasses, walks up and transforms his hand into a cannon, surprising every single one of them, especially Akira and Yuri. Yuri looks at Akira and asks how this geek can have the same abilities, and after hearing this, the Red Gang also starts thinking that Akira also has the cannon hand ability. He uses it to his advantage and converts his hands into a cannon before aiming it at the geeks and taking a shot. The shot lands right in front of them, and before they can think of giving chase, Blondie uses his bow to shoot a bunch of arrows in front of them, blocking their path. The geek takes out his cannon and shoots at our heroes, but Akira turns around and shoots a blast back at them. The 2 shots collide and a huge explosion takes place, blowing the Red Gang away while Akira and the rest vanish into the smoke. After they run away from that location, the blondie explains that the 3rd round is played in factions and there are 2 big teams here. One of them is the red team, which they just had an encounter with, and the other one is the green team, which he belongs to. He thanks them for saving his life and tells them that they don't have to worry, as he would try to force them to join their team. Akira, however, tells him that he took his bow out without a second thought to defend them, so they would love to meet his team and then decide for themselves. He takes them to a pretty large compound barred by a metal gate. He greets the gatekeeper as he lets them all in, and Akira and Yuri both are shocked to see the insides of the compound. There are young men guarding, women doing dishes and laundry, which they are supposed to do, and even old people farming. This looks like an entire village, which excites both of them. Suddenly, a young girl runs towards Blondie with a small baby in her hands. Akira notices that the baby doesn't have a handcuff, so Blondie informs him that the baby's mother was already pregnant with it, and the baby was delivered inside of this very compound. He promises to make them meet her, as right now she is working. He then takes them inside of a warehouse, where a bunch of tables are set up. He tells them to wait as he wants them to meet the group leader and goes inside of a room. Akira tells Yuri that he thinks he will join this team as it must have incredibly strong members, considering how big the compound is and the fact that even old people and weak women are allowed to join them, which must mean that the rest of the members are incredibly strong, as that is the only way they can fight to protect themselves. Blondie comes out after a while and takes them both in a room, where they are greeted by an old man named Shira, who looks at them and thanks them for saving Blondie's life. He tells them that they are safe over here and don't have to worry about any more attacks as long as they are within these compounds. He then turns his attention towards Akira, asking him whether he truly has the cannon ability, and Akira lies through his teeth and tells them that he does have this ability. This makes the leader happy, as he comments that they don't really have a lot of people with such strong offensive abilities. The blondie then turns towards Yuri, asking her what her ability is, and she replies that she can multiply her physical traits by multiple times. This truly shocks the leader as he spills his coffee, while Blondie is shocked beyond belief. He tells them that the Kamen ability is considered to be very strong ability with the rank of A, whereas the ability that she has is considered to be a ++. Shira and the Blondie both seem to be incredibly happy to have such powerful new recruits, as Shira congratulates Blondie for bringing these people, as now the entire battle can be turned. He explains to them how this new round works. According to him, they have to do quests and eliminate other players to earn points, which will be reflected on their smartphones, and as soon as they reach 1,000 points, they can ascend to the next level. They can also use the points to buy things or services from the smartphone, such as food or medicine. At the start, people used to make really small teams of 2 to 4 people, so that they can be more mobile and efficient, but one day some really strong players arrived, and they started making a team which became really big. The problem began when the team leaders decided that they don't really need to ascend to the next level, as there is no knowing what it might be, so they started kidnapping players with weaker abilities and began using them as slaves to do their bidding. According to him, the 4 guys who tried capturing Yuri intended to kidnap her as well. Shira tells them that he created the green team to protect the weak players so that they can't get kidnapped, and has been opposing the red team ever since. He also tells them about another team, known as the blue team, whose motives are not well known, and they have declared neutrality as they don't take any sides and mind their own business. He tells them that they are going to fight the red team sooner rather than later, and they are in dire need of players that are strong enough to fight. Yuri, who seems to be baffled by the red team's cruelty, immediately decides that she will fight against them, while Akira seems to be thinking about it. Shira tells him that he is already in conflict with the red team, so he doesn't really have a choice, but Akira wants to join this team only if he needs to, so he simply walks up to the old man and tells him that he can open up choices and puts his hands up in the air near his face. Everyone gets worried that Akira is going to shoot the leader, but he tells them to stay in place, as if they move, Akira will shoot him immediately. To Akira's surprise, however, a cannon isn't appearing out of his hand, which worries me, as this either means that Shira has some kind of ability that could prevent him from using his abilities, or that he doesn't really believe that Akira had the cannon in the first place. Yuri tells Akira once again to put his hand down immediately, and suddenly, the cannon appears out of his hand. The leader looks him straight in the eye and dares him to shoot, and without a second thought, Akira takes the shot. The smoke clears, and to everyone's surprise, Shira sits there unharmed and asks Akira whether he passes the test. Akira smiles at him and tells him that he will be happy to join his team. Yuri immediately grabs Akira by the throat, asking him why he was pulling such stunts, but Shira tells her that he just wanted to see whether the green team had any chance against the red team, and that's why he chose to shoot, so he can figure out how strong the leader of this group is. He tells them that thankfully, his abilities can even block a cannon shot at point-blank range, which is why he survived. Suddenly, a woman enters the room and tells Shira that today there's a lot of new recruits arriving, which is technically good for the team, but they don't have enough space to house them all. Akira volunteers to share a room with Yuri, so that there is not a lot of space wasted. This is the dream of every incel alive. They go into the same room where Akira grabs a piece of paper and tells Yuri to sit beside her, as he wants to tell her something. He quickly writes something on the paper and hands it over to Yuri, telling her not to say it out loud and just read it and believe it. Yuri grabs the piece of paper, which says that Akira's real ability is telepathy. He grabs her by the shoulder and tells her to focus and believe in him, and as soon as she actually believes about his abilities, he starts talking to her telepathically, and even she can talk back to him. He tells her that he doesn't want them to talk out loud because there is a huge possibility that the room has been bugged. Yuri asks him why would that be the case, and he replies that they are very strong individuals and the leader will make sure that he can totally trust us before laxing the security, but for now, they should believe that all of their actions are being monitored. He tells her to keep his secret ability safe, and once he has gained confidence that Yuri has a strong character and a strong motive to win, which is to go back home to her mother and her half-sister, he ends up revealing his actual ability, and tells her that he wants to finish this game, so he can have a rematch with the furry and defeat her. Suddenly, their phones ring up, and the furry comes to their screen like an influencer who is depressed, but shows that his life is all put together. Amph tells them that she has a quest for them. The next morning, they all have to assemble near some ruins, and there they will have to fight a bunch of ghouls if they want to earn more points. The next morning, Shira assembles his team in front of the gates and divides them into sub-teams, keeping Akira and Yuri in the same team, so that they can work more efficiently. They all go through the forest while Yuri and Akira converse with each other through telepathy. He realizes that now that he has told Yuri his real abilities, she is the biggest threat to him as she can kill him whenever he wants, and he has basically offered his own life to him in order to gain an upper hand in these battles. They finally reach the ruins and spot the furries sitting on top of the rocks, greeting them and telling them to get ready as they have to face a bunch of enemies now. She also tells them that each enemy killed is worth 30 points, so they have the opportunity to earn a bunch of points all at once. Suddenly, a bunch of CGI zombie mummies appear out of nowhere and start walking towards them. Akira realizes that this is the same enemy that attacked him in real life while he was going to school. She also tells them that there is only one rule in this quest, which is that they cannot attack anyone else during this quest. The battle starts and the zombies start running at them. Shira, however, is a master tactician and has already planned for everything as he takes the brunt of the damage from the first zombie without even flinching, while another group member grabs the zombie and puts it down, while the final girl wielding a sword cuts its head off. Shira tells them that he and players like him are the tank, while people who have the ability to trap the enemies are binders and players with powerful offensive capabilities are the slayers. If they work together in this fashion, they can easily defeat all of these monsters in no time. An all-out fight breaks out and a zombie tries to attack Akira, but he is easily able to blast him away with his cannon. People are fighting all around them, showing a bunch of powers such as teleportation, voodoo magic, while he keeps blasting these monsters away with his cannon. Suddenly, however, their eyes are turned towards the cliff as they spot a roided-up guy with a weird hairstyle walk up with a couple of men, and as soon as the monster tries attacking him, he simply punches him away to oblivion. Shira tells them that they are the leaders of the red team. Yuri tells him that they can't attack us because of the rule, but Shira replies that they only want to learn about our abilities for now, so he tells his team members to retreat. The red team, however, has other plans as they have brought the kidnapped people who they have made their slaves and forcefully makes them run in front of the zombies. The people start getting attacked and killed immediately, making Shira question himself. Suddenly, Akira and Yuri spot the nerd that they saw in the second round who is going to get attacked, so they immediately run up to her and Akira grabs her, while Yuri kicks the monster away. Suddenly, however, Furry starts becoming a real bitch and unleashes a giant monster on them. This monster kills a bunch of other zombies and makes his way towards the green team, while a bunch of kidnapped people are forced by the red team to run at the monster. One of the men from the green team blocks the punch, saving the innocent people, but gets knocked away himself. Akira shoots at the monster, but it doesn't do anything, and the monster punches him away into a tree. The monster was about to punch the shit out of him when Shira steps in the front and tells Akira to run and save the other people while he distracts the monster. Akira follows his instructions while Shira is forced to take in the attacks of the monster. The red team is watching this closely as they want to know Shira's ability, and finally he is forced to reveal his actual ability, which makes him be able to absorb a lot of damage, and then can reflect it on the enemy at will. Shira tanks up the attacks before punching the monster in the gut and blowing a hole through him. He also gets injured in the process as his team members start running up to him, happy to see him alive and that the monster is dead. To their surprise, however, the monster simply gets up and eats up the other zombies to regenerate himself back to full health and walks towards Shira again, while no one knows how they can ever defeat a monster like this.